Mike Giardi. Go ahead, Jim.
Good morning, Coach.
Hey, Jim.
I wanted to ask you about your recollections of Jack Easterby and his time with your organization.
Yeah, Jack was Jack was here for 6 years. He was really good for our football team, for the organization. He did everything I asked him to do, and he had a good interaction, relationship with everybody in our building, from the support people to the players to the coaching staff and so forth. I learned a lot from Jack. I think we learned a lot from each other, and we went through a lot together. So he had a good positive impact on our football team and on our organization.
Thank you.
Sure.
Next question, Mike Giardi, followed by Matt Latour.
Good morning, Bill. Post-game Sunday, you talked about Chase Winovich having a great week of practice, and obviously played off the ball a decent amount. He said he hadn't really done that since high school. So I'm curious, A, if the tape backed up your feelings about how he played that day, and also what sort of led you to have him play off the ball when he, as you said, he hadn't done it very much.
Right. Well, just the defense that we had in that particular some of those plays that were called. He did that, and as you said, it wasn't something that he's done a lot of, and he did do a lot of it for us. But in those particular situations, that's kind of what was called for. And one thing about Chase, he's always willing to and ready to do whatever you ask him to do. So, he learned the assignments on that and what to do, and I thought I did a good job of it.
Next question, Matt Latour, followed by Matt Dahl.
Bill, I was wondering if you expected Sony Michel to be healthy enough to activate this week.
Yeah, we'll see. Sony's been working hard. He's practiced the last 2 weeks, so we'll see how things go this week. But hopefully,
will be a challenge to figure out how to best utilize all of those running backs who've all contributed for you.
Yeah, well, we'll go through our process like we always do, and try to put together what we feel like would be the best game plan and best way to attack the Texans. They're a very good defensive team. They're very well coached, and so we'll need everybody we can get to help deal with those guys. It's a good football team. It's good defense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question, Matt Doloff, followed by Max Cirillo.
Morning, Bill. So, against the Ravens, I noticed in 21 personnel, you tended to mix up the receiver pairings. I know Jacoby was out there every play, but sometimes he was with Nikhil, sometimes he was with Demir. How much of that was sort of matchup based, or was it more about maybe managing the workload of the receivers as that game went on?
Yeah, I think all of the above. Again, we have a lot of confidence in all the players and all of our receivers, and they work well together and handle different roles, and can try to take advantage of certain things that they do, but they're really able to to do it all. But as you said, to kind of manage the group and let guys concentrate on specific plays or specific roles that we think they'd be good in. Then we try to do that where we can, not to be predictable and do the same thing all the time. I'm not saying that, but there are times you can take advantage of different combinations of people in there and what they do, and how it fits together. So I thought Josh and the offensive staff did a good job of that. They we use the people that we have offensively and try to put them in positions where they can be productive.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Next question, Max Cirillo, followed by Chris Ryan.
Morning, Bill. So just wanted to ask about, with the offensive line, you have two coaches working with that position group now, and I'm wondering how Carmen and Cole have been working together and how their dynamic has worked, compared to how, most of the other position groups have one person kind of overseeing the operation.
Yeah, well, we have, we have multiple people working in in the same position group in a lot of areas. So, we have two coaches in the secondary. We have two coaches with the linebackers. We have, Troy and Ivan with the running backs, and Josh kind of oversees a little bit of everything offensively. So, and I'd say that's fairly common, but particularly with the offensive line, that's the largest group on the field. So, we have usually anywhere between, call it 11 to 13 players on our roster, including practice squad, not including injury reserve. And that's a lot of guys to coach. And some players are at different stages, maybe the 5 or 6 guys that, you expect to play the most. And then you have other groups of guys that are in more of a developmental stage that may not play that much, but, that could have an impact on the game as they develop, or if you need them to move up due to injuries and things like that. So and I'd say also there's a difference between what the centers and guards do and what the tackles do with tight ends and pass protection and things like that. So there are different ways to break those combinations up. I think that Carm and Cole have worked well together. They both do a good job. And they both have a lot of experience with the offensive line, in terms of, experience and, coaching different types of players and maybe on different levels. Cole more here, but, Carm's had a lot of experience on that as well. And so we try to, coach all the players and help all the players. And I really feel like you need 2 guys to, really to be able to do that when you have the number of players that we have at that position, or everybody does for that matter. So I think you see a lot of teams that have some type of a 2-coach setup there.
What's the dynamic like between the two of them in sort of a personality perspective and coaching style?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, all of us have different personalities and different ways of motivating, communicating, and teaching and so forth. But they're both relatively young. I think they connect well to all the players, and again, they all work with everybody at some point or another. So it's really about teaching, and if a person's not learning one way, or if they learn better one way than another way, then you modify the teaching to that person. Again, that's a lot easier to do when you have smaller groups than one big large one. So they've. Carm spends probably a little more time with the younger players, and Cole a little bit more with the guys that have more playing time. But they overlap and work with each other, and both have a lot of good ideas in terms of game planning and strategy and things like that. So it's a good situation. We're fortunate to have 2 good coaches at that position, and that's I think that's really beneficial for everybody.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Next question, Chris Ryan, followed by Bob Sosi.
Morning, Bill. Kind of along those lines, as you've been in the league, support staff, coaching staffs have gotten obviously so much bigger, and there's such a specificity to what they do. There's obvious benefit. Do you see any downsides to that at all? And do you see any negatives from staffs having gotten so much bigger?
Well, I think it's the overall functionality that's important. We've generally been on the lower number relative to the rest of the league through the years, and I'd say as a head coach or as a coordinator, that it's easier to manage a smaller number of people than a larger number of people, just in general, not any specific person or group, but just in general. It's probably easier to manage 15 people than 25 or 10 instead of 15, or whatever whatever the numbers are. So but I mean, that being said, the most important thing is to get everybody on the same page, to be consistent, for the players to hear a consistent message, and that always falls back on the people involved, working together, communicating together, so that if you and I are talking separately to a player, that we're not telling them 2 different things and creating a level of confusion or misunderstanding or conflict. That we should be able to coach and answer questions and teach the assignments the same way. We might have a different style, but the information comes out the same way. So that's sometimes just a little bit challenging, but again, overall, I think that having a smaller room, having a, group of, 10, 12, 13, whatever it is, at times split into two is better than, always keeping, everybody together. And that could be drill work, it could be a meeting, it could be film, But look, there's also a point to having everybody together here. The same thing. That's why you have team meetings and offensive meetings and offensive line meetings and skill player meetings and things like that, is so that everybody does hear the same thing from one person to create that level of consistency. So, it's a balance of all that.
I want to ask you about Cam's leadership as well. We've talked obviously a lot over the last couple of weeks about his on-field performance, but I'm curious as to what you've noticed kind of behind the scenes in the locker room. His accountability has obviously been really significant with the media, and I assume with players, with coaching staff as well. What has the impact been behind the scenes from Cam?
Yeah, Cam's got a good leadership style. He he's has a good personality, gets along with everybody, works with everybody. I think everybody feels, a positive connection to him, and that, he knows who they are and cares about them, and, wants to fit in as a member of the team just like everybody else does. And, I think we all appreciate and respect that. So, he demands a lot out of himself, which is, a good leadership trait. And he's very supportive of his teammates, which is another good leadership trait. So, I think he's done a good job, especially considering that it's a new team, and, he doesn't have the background that, some other players and a lot of us have in this organization. But he kind of brings a different, kind of a fresher, maybe, energy or perspective to things that, I think we all can appreciate that as well. So it's really, I think it's, it's worked out in a positive way from that standpoint. Sure, he's learned some things about our organization and learned some things from us. And I think, we've all learned some things from him, and, can see why he's had accomplished so much in other, whether it be at Carolina or at Auburn, why he's been so successful in other places over a long period of time as well. So, it's been good.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Josh McDaniels is currently going in Michael's room. We're going to try to get 4 more questions in here. We'll try to limit it to just one question and not the follow-up. We'll start with Bob Socci, followed by Nick O'Brien.
Hi, thanks, Stacy. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, Bob.
Bill, I want to ask you about the tight end position, because there's been one constant there from day one this year, and that's been Ryan Izzo. And whatever challenges he's faced, whether it's the reported injury that shows up on the practice report, or with the workload, the snap load that he's had, what stands out in terms of his value, just being available week after week, as really the one guy at that position, again, has been there since day one?
Well, Bob, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's in football. That's the number one thing is dependability and availability. Player that's out there every day that can continue to work and improve and get better. Has a lot of value to the team, and Ryan's been able to do that this year more so than the other years he's been here. He's always worked hard. He's always been a kind of a quiet kid, but that's very diligent and works hard. But he's had some unfortunately physical setbacks where he would be moving along and then miss some time, and not really be able to have the on the field consistency that any player needs to improve and be successful. I think his training, his overall development physically has improved, and that's been helpful for him. Again, in terms of maintaining his durability and sustaining, the day after day grind of practices and preparation and games that has brought him this far. So durability is more important than ability, and Ryan, I think, is a great example of that. The fact that he's been out there has really given him a chance to improve, and he's taken advantage of that, and given us some some good play at that position, and that's certainly this has been his best year, but it's also been his most durable year.
Thank you.
Next question, Megan O'Brien, followed by Jim McBride.
Hey, Bill, yesterday Romeo Crennel met the Houston media, and he talked about how much he learned from you on the racquetball court. I was just curious what you learned from being around Romeo and what you took away from those racquetball matchups.
Well, what I took away from it is neither one of us are very good racquetball players, but I would say I've enjoyed working with all the coaches that I've worked with and learned from all of them, whether I was a head coach or an assistant coach. You learn from everybody, and I've always enjoyed my relationships with the players that are on the side of the ball that I was on, or the coaches that I was working with on the other side of the ball. And with Romeo, we've always worked pretty closely together between defense and special teams, and he's just one of the very, very best that I've ever worked with. He's got a great demeanor. He's a great teacher. He connects well with everybody. He's a very good listener and perceptive, and he keeps things from getting overly complicated. He always emphasizes the most important points that need to be hit on, and he's does a great job of building the team chemistry. Thought that he was a very, very important part of the 1990 championship with the Giants, when he went from being a special teams coach to the defensive line coach, and kind of the chemistry that he added to the defense was very important to, I think, the success there. And he always adds, in whatever role or capacity it's in. I mean, he always adds a lot of positivity. Again, he's a great teacher. He's a very good fundamental coach. So players always get better under him. That's one thing that I always noticed, that the players that he coached, you'd see a very rapid improvement from where they were when he started with them to where they got to in a fairly short amount of time. Again, whether that was in the kicking game when he was a special teams coach, or on defense, specifically working with a defensive lineman. And he did a great job here as a coordinator, won 3 championships. Nobody had more poise and under pressure and calling games, being in big games, making adjustments. He just did a tremendous job with that, and then went on to be a head coach, and I respected and admired the way he handled all the things that he's dealt with in that job, or when he went to Cleveland anyway. And so he's his track record is really superior, and as a person he's off the charts. And again, just a great football man that I put him in a pretty high class there. There's not too many that I could rank above him.
And last 2 questions, Jim McBride and Phil.
Coach, this kind of goes back to your availability point of earlier, but I wanted to ask you about Lawrence Guy and how his toughness and how he was able to shake off multiple injuries and give you some really quality snaps on Sunday night.
Yeah, it was very impressive, Jim. I know LG was dealing with 2 or 3 things last week, and missed the Jets game, which it takes a lot to keep him out. He's physically and mentally one of the tougher players that I've coached. Certainly one of those on the team, and to have him come back against the Ravens and give us the number of plays and the quality of plays. He's just got a great mindset of, I'm never going to feel 100%. It's pro football. You get banged up, that's part of it. But I'm tough enough to work through it, and he shows that on a consistent basis. He's a great example to younger players in terms of, just having the mental toughness to go out there and compete and work every day, and that's how you get better. And if, you let little things get in the way and keep you from working, then you just don't improve as much. So, he's a guy that, everything we've asked him to do, he's worked hard to improve on it and do it better. And I think you see that in his play. He really does it. He's great with the younger players. Everybody looks up to him, as they should, because of the example he sets and the way he carries himself. He's not a real loud or, guy who says a lot, but when he talks, everybody listens, and he's on the money, and he has a great message, because it's always about, the team and how to help the team win. He's a very unselfish player. But yeah, the toughness that he showed last week against a big offensive line, it's a very good running football team. He gives a lot of quality snaps in there against those guys.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Last question, Phil here.
Hey, Bill, I just wanted to actually follow up on one of Jim's questions from earlier in the conversation here about Jack Easterby. I'm just curious, how impressed were you maybe by the way in which Jack's role grew while he was here in New England, to go from character coach to the position he has now in Houston, where he's an executive vice president of football operations? I think, people look at that and wonder how that transition gets made. So wanted to ask you maybe how his role grew while he was here that might have prepared him for the role he has now in Houston.
Yeah, I don't know, Phil. That's probably a question that you should ask him, and I'm not really sure about that whole situation down there. What, how it grew or didn't grow or whatever. I just, told you what I saw in 6 years here, and that's really about, I think it's an honest perspective from here. That's about it right now. Trying to get ready for the Texans, and that's where all our efforts are focused.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everyone.
Head to Dunkin' for the snacking menu. America runs on Dunkin'.
In New England, we are resilient. It takes hard work to earn respect. Sometimes it takes decades. And it always takes someone being on your side.
Ready or not. Gillette ProGlide and ProGlide Gel. 5 blades and a pivoting flex ball designed to get virtually every hair on the first stroke while washing away dirt and oil. So you're ready for the day with a clean shave and a clean face.
For over 60 years, this team has transformed itself into a championship organization. For over 160 years, our team has demonstrated a similar mentality. There are no days off. Our front lines are fortified by people who sacrifice individuality for the team. Our shelves are also stocked with the best quality products and ingredients. Our team members know their roles. We're proud to do our jobs. Shaw's, the official supermarket